Wonderful. Hello, beady friends, and welcome. I am Meredith Roddy from Beadalon and Artistic Wire, and today we are going to be doing another fun project in the series that Beadalon has been doing for the past over 2 years for the Michaels Community Classroom. We are going to be making a multi-strand bracelet, that is 3 strands, using some tube beads and learning how to finish off with necklace cones or bead cones because we're making a bracelet. Usually they're referred to as necklace cones, but you can use them for earrings, for all different things. And we're going to get into that as we get into class. A couple things right off the bat as people are joining us. Just remember that this class is being recorded. And so in about 24, 48 hours or so, it will be available over on the Michaels Community Classroom section of their YouTube channel. So you can fast forward through the chit chat, you can get right to the important parts, or you can hang out as the live people are doing right now. So I see people are chiming in and saying hello, and there's been a Finn sighting over here in the corner. Finn is the unofficial official Beadalon mascot. He's the home office dog, and he loves classes, he loves Facebook Lives, he loves interacting with all of you beady friends. So speaking of comments and people saying hello and where they're from, if you have any questions as I'm going along, please feel free to post those in the comments. I do a pretty good job of keeping up. And so hopefully if there's something that I haven't explained correctly, or if something is a little fuzzy or a little foggy, I'll be able to go back to it. If you are joining us on the replay, unfortunately, you won't be able to have your questions answered, but there are lots of great resources, not only on the Michaels website, but also on the Beadalon website as well. So definitely go poke around and do what you need to find the answers to your questions, but I'll do my very best to get them answered today. So again, welcome to everyone. And if anybody is new to these classes, like I said, we've been running them for over 2 years now. But if you are just discovering the amazing classes that Michaels is offering in the community classroom, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. And hopefully this is either the beginning, middle, or in the midst of your jewelry making journey, but wherever you are on your skill level, hopefully there will be a little tidbit or two to take away from class today. I know it's class time because Finn is over in the other room scratching, so I might have to give him a little warning over there, but we'll see. He's trying to find a good place to settle because he knows that we are in for it, right, friends? All right, Deja, I am ready for you to take that overhead camera. We can go ahead and talk about the materials that we are going to be using for class today. So this is what we're making. So fun. And I love this project because you can substitute and change out just about every piece and part to make something completely different. So if these gumball size 6 seed beads aren't your jam, no worries. Change them to crystals, change them to gemstones, change them to metal beads, change them to anything you want. I really like the look of these 2 beads. I find that I'm drawn to certain kinds of beads, right? Where there are always beads through the bead aisle that shout out to us, right? That call to us, that say, bring me home. And you might not necessarily know what you're going to do with them right away. 2 beads are like that for me. It's one of the things that I'm drawn to. And I really like that this simple and easy to make bracelet highlights these brushed tube beads. Also in our bracelet today, we are going to be playing around with necklace cones. One of my bigger challenges when I first started making jewelry was how to cleanly and nicely finish off the ends of a multi-strand design. So here I have 3 strands, and I have reduced that inside these necklace cones to 1 strand. And that, I think, is the best takeaway of our class today, is learning how to make a nice clean end for a multi-strand bracelet, necklace, anklet, earrings, what have you. So those are some of the things that we're going to need for class today. We will also need a clasp, and my clasp just came from our variety pack here, and also a couple of jump rings to attach. It might not look like it now, but there are actually pieces of wire, and I'm using 49 strand 018 wire today. And those bead strands are actually crimped with some number 2 crimp tubes onto a loop that I made using 22 gauge artistic wire. Okay, so that is what is holding everything together, is 2 wrapped loops of 22 gauge artistic wire. If you have 18 gauge, that'll work. 20 gauge, awesome, rock it. 24 gauge will work, it'll be a little bit thin. I wouldn't go any thinner than 24 gauge. And in classes, as I know a lot of my beauty friends are in here saying hello to each other and hello to me, hello everyone. I oftentimes will talk all about different materials, because we all have different materials in our stashes, right? We all have different materials, different tempers of wire that we prefer working with. Some instructors say this is exactly how you have to use 22 gauge wire and no other wire will do. And sometimes that's the case. There are some projects that I 100% will say you have to use this material. This is not one of those projects. There are tons of substitutions that you can make for sure. Let's see. So we talked about cones, crimps, wire, just making sure I'm not forgetting anything in our materials list. The one thing that I also want to mention, so I did talk about these size 6 size 6 seed beads for my friends at John Bead. I also have hidden in here, you can't see them, but there are a couple, just I think, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 18, or even less than that. Size 11 seed beads. So you'll never see them, doesn't matter what color it is, they are just hiding in here. And we are going to talk to that later. So a good question just came up in the chat, and I'm not going to address this question right now. Olivia is asking, how do you choose between wire and stretch cord for your project? There are some other YouTube videos that I have done, or YouTube classes for the Michaels Community Classroom. That's kind of a big digression. I will answer the question very simply, which is it depends on what beads you're using, who you're making for, and what your personal style is. But also sometimes it just matters what you want it to look like and what materials you have on hand. Could you make this with memory wire? Sure, it would look a little different, but you can make this kind of type of bracelet with memory wire, and you could certainly use it, use stretch cord. Definitely check out, I actually just watched before class today, the class that I did 2 weeks ago, last week or 2 weeks ago, on elastic cord. It's a good one. It's a lot of info, but it's definitely a good class to go back and watch. So the wire that I chose today is 49 strand, and I chose an 018. Again, there's a little bit of room for flexibility here. I always, like to recommend a wire to use, and that wire that I'm recommending is 49 strand 0.018. And general rule of thumb is you always want to fill up the bead holes as much as you can. Okay. And again, tons of information in past classes about choosing wire, about what crimps to use with which wire, all of that. I definitely recommend checking out the 5 things you should never do while making beaded jewelry YouTube video. I know I reference it a lot, but it's kind of everything you need to know to get started. And it's a good one to get your feet wet with all things jewelry making. All right, so let's get started. And once again, you're welcome. I pre-strung my beads for you, because who among us loves to watch Meredith stringing beads? I'm sure somebody finds it meditative and delightful, but that is something that I always try to do if I can before class, so that you do not have to watch me stringing up seed beads. But these are size 6s, so they work up pretty quickly. But again, we don't need to watch that. So I did pre-string everything up, and in the instructions, it just indicates how much to do. And let me just double check. I think it was, I said 3 inches. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I was saying the right thing. So we're going to do 3 inches of size 6 seed beads, 1 3mm faceted bead. And the reason why I did this, there's a very specific reason, because these size 6 seed beads do not fit into that tube. See how that that Rondel, that little metal seed bead, kind of nestles into that tube. That's just one of the little things that I think that if you pay attention to will set your jewelry apart from other people's. If you don't necessarily need to have that extra bead there, but having the size 6 a butt up to that tube just by itself, I didn't like how it looked. So I took a little bit of a smaller bead. You could use a bicone in there. Bicones are great for doing that. Kind of taking up that little bit of slack. It's just one of those things that I always do if I can, is make sure that if I have a big bead or a big hole here, like I have for my bead tube, I want to make sure that I just have that little bit of extra plugging up. I don't know, there's a better way of saying it. So that's why I have that bead right there. So then I put on my tube, and then I have another metal bead here. Now, if I wanted to get real fancy, sure, I could have put on a whole bunch of size 11s, for example. Then that would take up all of the room in there. Size 8s might fit in there. I just don't want that tube moving around too much on its own. Okay, and then I have another 3 inches here. On the end, I always like to point out these are called bead stoppers. If you don't have bead stoppers, I highly, highly recommend picking up a pack or two. They're just the perfect they're just little springs, but you put them on the end of your beading wire, and so you don't lose your beads if you drop them. I know we've all done it. It can be very heartbreaking. Use a bead stopper. I might have said bumper. I meant to say stopper. And yes, they excuse me, they prevent a lot of frustration. So I'm going to put these guys aside for right now, and we are going to make that wrapped loop with we're going to do it twice. We're going to use a 6-inch piece of 22 gauge artistic wire. If you have German style wire, you can use German style wire. Again, totally a different class for a different day. I'm going to take my nylon jaw pliers and just straighten this out. It's a habit that I get into. I always straighten my wire as it's coming off the spool. And I, of course, very rarely measure. So let me actually measure out a nice 6-inch piece here. And I'm just using my wire cutters to snip that off. This is way more than I need. But again, especially in the beginning of your jewelry making journey, even though it's counterintuitive because we always want to conserve our supplies and make them go as far as we can get them, sometimes it's actually less wasteful to use a little bit more and give yourself room to play around and to have enough material to do it right. Now, it's hard for you to see, but I have a little mark here on my pliers. It's a little Sharpie mark. I don't know. I think it's really, really light, but it's there. Trust me. Believe what I say. And I am lining up my loop with that Sharpie mark so that I know that I'm going to make all of my loops the same size. Okay. And real quick wrapped loop. And this is not necessarily the first thing that I would learn when I'm doing any wire work, but certainly not a difficult thing. So I have my wire, I'm holding it in between my pliers, and I'm going to bend it down almost 90 degrees. Okay. Now I'm going to take my index finger and I'm going to bring, using my index finger and my thumb, I'm going to bring that wire around the top jaw of my round nose pliers. Okay. And I've got it around, not all the way so it's meeting here, but around to about what would be a 45-degree angle in between here and here. Probably a little bit less than 45 degrees, but you get the general idea. So now what I need to do, I have my loop over the top jaw of my pliers. I'm going to transfer that to the bottom jaw of my pliers. And I'm going to change hands. Now, people make their wrap loops in a lot of different ways. This is how I make mine. If you do yours differently and you come up with a perfect wrap loop, that's awesome. Don't change a thing. But if you struggle with wrap loops, you might want to consider trying it this way. So what I'm doing is I'm using my pliers and I'm pulling that tail around toward myself. And I just want to straighten that out just a little bit because it got a little wonky. And now I'm doing what I call the push and pull. I'm going to push the tail and I'm going to pull the tail and I'm going to push the tail and I'm going to pull the tail. So I usually go around 2 times. Some people will wrap it around like this. Some people will use their fingers. There are all different ways, again, to do this. This is what works for me. And sometimes it works for me better than other times. But that's how I learned how to make a wrap loop, and that is how I do it. Again, different instructors will do it different ways. There is not one way that's perfect to do a wrap loop. And I always, even though in this case it doesn't really matter, I always make sure that I tuck my little tails in when I'm making my wrap loops. Just makes a nicer finish. So I'm going to do that one more time, a little quicker this time, because we'll need 2, 1 for each end. And again, that's where it becomes so important to have that, that mark on your pliers, because you know that your loops will be the same size each time. So it does go a lot faster when I'm not breaking it down step by step. And oftentimes my loops tend to turn out a little bit better when I'm not breaking it down step by step. Go figure, right? Sometimes when you don't even think about it, it works out a lot better, but you definitely always want to tuck that little tail in when you're done. Okay. So I have my 2 loops, and one thing that you always want to keep in the back of your mind, especially when you're making anything that's multi-strand, is how the differences in beads and how the differences in how you want this to lay will be affected. Okay, that's a very confusing way of making sure saying you need to make sure you check your lengths. Okay, when you're making a multi-strand necklace, the technique is a little bit different than when you are making a multi-strand bracelet. Okay, we're making a bracelet today, so we're going to talk about that. So what I'm actually going to do is grab a couple more bead stoppers, and I'm going to put these guys out straight. And I'm going to measure them against each other, and I'm going to measure them against a ruler. We're going to talk a little bit about sizing in a second. Somebody in the chat likes bead stoppers. Okay. So sometimes I'm more careful about these kinds of things than others. I will admit to that, but it's good habits to get into to make sure that you are double checking before you're crimping. It's always that kind of measure twice, cut once. I'm bad at that when I sew. I am not great at it when I am doing beading, but I should teach the right way, right? All right, so let me get out my trusty measuring device. It's been with me for many, many years. And I generally use the 7.5 inches rule as my go-to for when I'm making a bracelet. So this I've actually overstepped, right? I'm over 8 inches. So I need to take some beads off, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take 4 off here. The funny comment about bead stoppers flying across the room. They shouldn't do that. They could. All right, so now I have 7.5 inches of beads, but I need to account for all of this stuff that's going on here. Okay, so this is a little bit of a diversion. I've been doing this on purpose, but it's a little bit of a diversion to talk about helping or to talk about what you need to think about when you are sizing bracelets. That question comes up a lot in the chat. It comes up a lot when we are making jewelry. So here I am measuring, and from cone to cone, I think not everybody can see that. Let me come up right here. Yep. From cone to cone, it's about 2.25 inches. Okay. I think it was in the elastic cord video, I said that unfortunately there might be math involved. So if this space with my clasp and my jump rings and the 2 cones is about 2.5 inches, I'm sorry, 2.25 inches, I need to account for that in my bracelet. So let's just say it's 2.5 inches and I want my bracelet to be 7.5 inches. So this amount of space right here needs to be 5 inches. Make sense? I know. I don't like when there's math involved, but today there is math involved. So what I need to do now, and again, this is all by design, because these are the things that we have to think about when we are making jewelry, and especially when we're making bracelets, because we don't want our bracelets to be too long, but we don't want to make our bracelets too small. So I said 5 inches, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down on my measuring device, and I have a feeling if people's comments or if people have the closed caption, it's probably on the bottom there. So this is where I like to kind of eyeball it. I'm going to take this up right here to where that 5 inches would be. I'm going to pinch my fingers there, and I'm going to take these beads off. Incidentally, one of these tubes of size 6.0 John Bead Seed beads will make 2 of these bracelets, 2 3-strand with a little bit left over. And so now what I want to do is, again, I kind of eyeball this, but you could count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Did I do that right? I went from 16 to 17, right? Or the way that I sometimes like to do it also, and again, just showing variations, showing lots of different ways of doing things. You just go like this, right? I'm gonna push this up, push them against each other, and I can see I need one more bead where the white one is. So depending on how particular and how fastidious you want to be, you can do lots of math and lots of measuring. You can do lots of eyeballing, and you get that general idea. So now what we're going to do is before I do that, I'm going to measure this guy against all others and take some beads off. Okay, so about 2 here. Take these beads off. I went way overboard. I got very overly enthusiastic when I was stringing things up this morning, but important to illustrate the point of how to get our measurements right. And then of course, it's always a good idea once you've done those measurements to go back and kind of make sure, like, does that look right? Does my math kind of add up? Is it going to be all that extra area? Yeah, that should work out. No problem. Hopefully. No, we're in good shape. Okay. So we are going to measure out here. Patty needs a reminder. These are called bead stoppers. I oftentimes call them by the wrong name, but they are lifesavers when it comes to doing beadwork. Okay. So look, I have all those. I thought I would run out, but I have all those beads left over. Okay. And to remember, this one I actually made really big. This could probably be an anklet, which is another fun idea for this design, right? So I love, this is the gumballs mix. It spoke to me. When I was trying to figure out what the colorway was going to be for our project today, excuse me, this one definitely spoke to me. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to use crimp tubes to crimp each of these 3 ends onto the loop that we made here. Okay. The loop that we made here. And I want to take some of this background noise out so that it's a little bit cleaner. All right, so I'm putting on my crimp tube and I'm using a number 2 crimp tube, of course, because that is what is recommended to me by the wire that I'm using. And I am going to find that loop and I'm going to put my beading wire through the loop, up, around, and back through. And you'll notice that I definitely have a lot more wire than I need cut off. And again, I cannot stress it enough or too many times. You will always be happier if you have more wire to hold on to and to work with than if you have less. It's just how it is. And I'm thinking that I just want to make sure there's something that I am forgetting with size 11s. Yeah, okay. I'm glad that I remembered, which is totally fine. I'm just going to back this out because I need to add, remember how I was talking about in the beginning, we needed just a couple of size 11 seed beads. They come out from under my nail. I'm going to add 2. And trust me now, and believe me later, those seed beads are hidden up underneath that cone. Okay, so you can kind of see it when I do this. It just helps to make sure that that cone isn't going to be wobbling around too much. So go ahead and put those 2 seed beads on and then put your crimp tube on and then come up around and through. And then we're just going to crimp like we would any other time. And again, plenty of long form tutorials on crimping, but real quick, 3-step process. We're going to come in the middle of our crimping pliers. Then we're going to go to the back of our crimping pliers. Then we are going to come back to the front again of our crimping pliers and call it a day. And just to make it easier, I'm going to snip off my little end. I don't need to really worry about tucking it back into the beads. You can do that if you want to, but in this case, it does not matter one way or the other. Okay. So now this is what we've got. We've got our strand with our bead stopper on it. And we've got 2 size 11 seed beads. And we have our crimp tube and everything is crimped to here. Wow, that was a crazy focus. Did everybody see that? That was wild. Okay, so we're going to do that 2 more times. Once again, I'm going to remember. See, at some point, I bet I will forget. But I'm going to try to remember my 2 size 11 seed beads. my crimp tube, and I'm going to crimp that to the very same tube that I just crimped to. Okay, so up, around, and through. I want to make sure as best as I can, and I don't need a super whole lot of wiggle room here. I'm going to try to take that up pretty close to that loop, and I'm going to come in with my crimping pliers in the front to make a little oval in the back to put in that divot, make my jelly bean, and then back in the front to close it up. Is there anybody who's watching this is the first time that they've ever seen the crimping demonstrated? I would love to know if it's your first time seeing the crimping demonstrated. It's the first for Dara. Awesome. All right, I will do slowly the next time. We've got 4 more crimps to do. So by the end of it, you'll be able to teach the class. All right, so here we are one last time. On this side, I'm going to take one size 11 seed bead. I'm going to take another size 11 seed bead. And you could see I'm picking up my seed beads right off the mat. I'm not trying to pick them up and put them through with my fingers. I'm going to do the same thing with the crimp tube. It's just a lot easier to pick them up when you aren't trying to stab them. Did I put my crimp tube on? Yeah. So I'm going to come in through here, and there should still be plenty of room here. You shouldn't be struggling. It starts to get a little fiddly, but just take your time and know what the end goal is. All right. So once again, I'm coming through here, and I leave about, I don't know, an inch or so of slack here. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. The more you leave here, the easier it will be to crimp. You also want to make sure good crimping habits are to not have your wires crossed in the crimp. Okay. There are 2 slots of the crimp tool. The front one, where I'm going to put my crimp and press it down gently into an oval. Then I'm going to come back here in the back jaw. This is always when I realize that I could use better, cleaner, more easily to see out of glasses. And it makes a really big difference. Lighting and magnification make a huge difference when you are doing crimping. So if you are struggling with your crimps, clean your glasses, get more powerful glasses, play around more with your ability to see rather than getting frustrated at not being able to crimp. All right, so hopefully I remember to add my 2 seed beads, my size 11s on each one. And I'm just tightening everything up so that my beads are snug against those crimps. And you can see I've got, a good 6-8 inches of wire over here. It can be used for other things, okay? But will make your life easier, especially if you're just starting out. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this side over here before we start crimping the other one, right? No need to not do that. So I'm taking a necklace cone. At the Michaels store, they are called bead cones. I always learned them as necklace cones. There is a part number there. They come in different sizes. They come in different diameters. They come in different finishes. They come in with different designs, all different things. In this particular package, actually, there are 2 different sizes. I'm using the smaller of the 2. There's a bigger one too. So let me take out a smaller one, because knowing me, I would do one of one and one of the other. So now this is how you can see where those seed beads become important to be on here. Okay. And I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, how is everything coming in here? It looks like I have a little more space than I want. Okay. So that's something to consider too. While you're going along around and doing this, using the smaller bead cone, little less space than, or little more space here than I want. So let me try this bigger cone. That one actually, because there's more room in here, that's pulling up a lot nicer, right? The way that those seed beads are coming in there. So things to consider when you are working with bead cones, right? Not every bead cone is created equally. Not every bead cone is going to fit your design the way that you might have originally intended or thought that it would. So just be aware of those things when you're doing it, that the longer bead cone in this case is better because of all this amount of space in here. It's kind of a, I don't know, like a next course jewelry kind of a thing to be concerned about, but we are talking about necklace cones, so there you go. Okay, so I am going to I'm going to actually switch back because I only have one of these longer cones. I am going to use a smaller cone because it's going to be just fine. But what I always do when I use a necklace cone is I always put a bead on the top of it, whether it is a seed bead, whether it's one of these little metal beads. Again, bicones work great in this situation because they nestle right into those loops. But if you don't use a little bead on the top, and then you do for the next one, then you'll know. You'll be like, oh yeah, Meredith could not have been more right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tie and turn another wrapped loop. The best part about teaching is trying to do wrapped loops on the other side of the camera. That is always a challenge to be able to see what I am doing. And snip that off. And again, last step to a wrap loop is always to tuck that little end in. And I oftentimes will just kind of give him a little straighten if he needs it, but definitely always tuck your ends in. Super, super important. Melody's asking, would you still use the cones if you were making the bracelet out of 11 OC beads? Well, that is a good question. Let's see, how can I answer that? It depends. If I am using all 11 O's and I'm doing it with this technique of making 3 strands to 1 strand, then yes, I would still, because what this necklace cone is doing is hiding the mechanics. It's hiding all those crimp beads. It's hiding all of those size 11s. It's hiding what I don't want to be seen, kind of the behind the scenes construction of my design. So yes, I would still use the necklace cones. And quite frankly, I will often use necklace cones or bead caps or even make my own just for a fun decorative element because it makes it look prettier, right? And actually Cindy is one step ahead of me. Yep, she's saying the cone here is also a design option. You can make multi-strand pieces without them. Sure, you can definitely 100% make multi-strand pieces without them, but I think it makes them look better if you have them there. Okay, so one of the things that I'm doing, and I want to talk through this, is when I'm crimping, for those of you who are brand new or who need a refresher, I'm not holding this out straight and pulling this as absolutely tight as I possibly can, because even though I don't want any wire showing here, I also don't want the wire to be under too much pressure. So when you're working with little seed beads like this, it does not become that big of a deal. But if I was using cubed beads or bigger beads or flat-sided beads, it starts to become an issue, and you just want to get into a good habit of making sure that when you are finishing off a bracelet, when you're doing that other side, you want to bring your 2 ends together, because that will automatically build in enough wiggle room to make sure that your jewelry piece is constructed well and there isn't too much tension being put onto your wire. Again, go back, watch 5 things you should never do while making beaded jewelry, and you can listen to me talk about that over and over and over again in a whole bunch of different ways. But it is, I mean, I joke and I make light of it, but it really is important, because one of the questions or one of the comments that we get more often than not is, why did my jewelry break? And 9 times out of 10, your jewelry broke because it was strung too tight. I'm just dumping out my little crimp tubes here, because I forgot to put one on. That's what happens when you get to number 5 and number 6 on the strands. You're like, wait a second, why? What have I forgotten now? So again, I'm coming up and around and through. And once again, making sure that I am building enough wiggle room into this. I'm also making sure that everything is nice and tightened up here. And there aren't any gaps, there aren't any weird things going on, there aren't any, I don't know, you just kind of want to double check and eyeball to make sure that everything is the way that you want it to be. Okay, so now, once again, we're coming in here, we're going to crimp in the front, crimp in the back, crimp in the front, and do a little snippy snip. Again, no reason to tuck the tails back in. It's just easier and faster and just as secure to just snip them off, because everything is going to be hidden inside that necklace cone. Okay, last one. We are practically ready to put our clasp on. So one more crimp tube. And oh, see, I told you, I knew I was going to forget. The last one, always, you have to always be the most careful with the last one. I almost forgot my 2 11-0s. I'm sure somebody noticed that and was about to write it over in the comments. Everyone always keeping me in check. I appreciate it. Okay, so up and around and through. Come through here. And again, just making sure that nothing is too tight, nothing is too wonky, everything looks pretty good. It's going to be a nice kind of flowy kind of a design. And I love that I have so many pliers out, and I can never find the one that I just had in my hand, right? That happens to all of us. We can never find the plier that we just had in our hand. Just make sure. I tend to also go around my crimps in a circular motion in that front part of the jaw. Never smash them. If you guys have been hanging out with me for a while, you know that it's killing me not to go through my little tirade against smashing your crimps. Just don't. It breaks the wire, it breaks the crimp, it's bad beading practice. It never ends well. It's always a temptation, but it never ends well. All right, so somehow my little end did not get as tucked down as I want it to. I can tell that there's certain things, like everyone has their things, right? Mine is tucked ends. That was my thing. Okay, so we're gonna just do those very same steps on this side and put that bead cone on. And again, the longer side would probably be a little bit better in retrospect, but I am fine with how everything is coming together. Oh, I love this design so much. And now it's the right size for me. Oh, wrong size, wrong bead. I switched it up. We're going with these funky silver beads on the top. And again, I need my round nose pliers, because I'm making a round loop here on the top. So just like I did on the other side, I'm coming to my mark. So again, it's very, very faint, and I apologize, but it's there. And that's how I know that my loops, my wrap loops will always be the same size. And it's tempting to want to do this part with your fingers. And again, a lot of people do. I just would rather make it, I am better if I do a little push and a pull and a push and a pull to get that loop really wrapped nicely. And then I'm going to snip that off there, and we are coming down the home stretch. Okay, perfect. So coming down the home stretch, the last thing we need to do is add our clasp. So any clasp will do here. You could use a toggle clasp, a magnetic clasp. Love at the end of class, everything is always, there's always just such a big pile of beady goodness. But what I did, let's see, what did I choose? I chose the spring ring clasp. In the Findings Variety pack, that's kind of the everything you need to make jewelry pack. There are spring rings and there are lobster claws. And there are also the perfect size, in my opinion, of jump rings. Sometimes if you've been using yours for a while, things tend to get jumbled up. So I like to come in here with my pliers and pick out what I need. So in keeping things similar, I am going to use 2 jump rings, a spring ring, and then I'm going to pull out a tag. So this is one of those findings that I didn't necessarily use in the beginning of my beading career, but I find using a tag rather than a jump ring is much more secure, or I should say a much more secure way of finishing off your jewelry. And you can see why, right? If I just used a jump ring, it can come apart, it can get pulled apart. But this tag is a solid, not a solid piece of metal, but there are no slots. There's no way for things to come apart. So it's my little sales pitch for using tags. I like them. They make me happy. And I'm going to take my jump ring and twist that apart, right? That's how we always want to open and close our jump rings. I'm going to slide my clasp on. And you can see I put my clasp together before I put it on. It's just one of those weird little habits that I've gotten into, is clasping my clasp and my tag, or my clasp and my other half of my clasp together before I put things together. Does it matter? Probably not at all, even a little bit, but it's just one of those quirky little jewelry making things that I do that I like to pass along. So again, just using my other jump ring, I'm going to put my tag and my jump ring together and put my jump ring back together, give it a little wiggle, make sure those sides are nice and lined up. If I need to give them a little cajoling, I can do that also. And now I have my bracelet done. And oh, it's gonna fit. Okay, I'm gonna just put it against my body really quickly and hope that I can get it done without a helper. Oh, so close, so close. I really want to wear this bracelet this afternoon, and I have nobody to help me put it on because Finn does not have opposable thumbs, but I did it. I got it on. Thank you for your patience. So super fun, right? And it ends up being the perfect diameter for my wrist. And yeah, super fun. I love it. And this one that I made a little bit bigger, because just between you and me, bracelets tend to photograph better when they're a little bit bigger. So I'm going to use this as an anklet. So that'll be really cool too. I'll have a little bit of a matching set, or one for me and one for a friend. So thank you everybody so much for hanging out with me today. Deja, we can take that overhead camera again And I'm gonna do a little modeling like this just for the end. Maybe that can be the highlight reel picture is the just this. So thank you everybody so much for hanging out with me today. Fun class, right? Just a nice project, but we went over a bunch of different techniques that we can use for furthering our jewelry making in the future. Couple things really quickly before I sign off. Remember, if you make this project, definitely post it on all of your socials and do a hashtag of make it with Michaels. I've also seen made it with Michaels, but also Michaels Community Classroom, of course, hashtag Beadalon. And you can always find me on Instagram at Meredith Joy Designs. So if you tag me also, I get to see what you make and it makes me smile. So I appreciate that. Don't forget, we have a lot of classes coming up on the Michaels Community Classroom. So go over, check it out, see what we have coming up. Their earrings. Sarah Lovecraft does a lot of wire work projects for us, crimping, the basics, some things that are a little bit more advanced, all good things. And of course, as I mentioned during class, you can always go back and go through the archives for not only jewelry projects, but so many amazing makers doing so many amazing things. I know I have learned so much from this Michaels Community Classroom project that they have been offering for the past couple of years. And I am very grateful to Michaels for having me, to Beadalon for having me, and also for everybody for hanging out. And thank you for all so much for your supportive comments as well. When they come through, I do see them and I very much appreciate it. So that's it for me today. Make sure that you follow and tag and do all of the things, and I will see you next time. And until then, happy beading.